Welcome, good people. Welcome, good people, to another new show on Football Khanage. It's Transfer Khanage. It's Transfer Khanage, and the first Transfer Khanage of the year, because I believe the window opened Monday. Am I right, guys? Monday or Sunday?
Well, technically on Tuesday, Grizz. Sunday. Sorry, technically on
Sunday.
Technically on Sunday, but of course we had the RedFellas on Sunday. So therefore, today is the first show of the season in terms of Transfer Khanage. Hope you're all very, very, very well. Hope you've had a lovely festive season, New Year's, Christmas, and all that. And yeah, welcome to the channel, people. Welcome to the show. We have some house rules, as you guys know. Smash up the likes on entry, folks. Like, share, subscribe. It's much, much appreciated. There's over 230 of you already in here. We love and always are humbled by the support. So if you could smash a like, we'd love it even more. The first super chat of the night, I just want to get that out of the way. Liam says the number 10 was crying out for Nkunku. Yeah, Evan's face says it all. We'll get Blue Chip's thoughts on Nkunku as well as the show goes on. We've got so much to get through. So much to get through. So many stories, so many links, so many names, drama, Virgil van Dijk, injury situation, Bobby contract, links to Nunes, so much to get through. We will try to get as much done in this show as possible, as long as my guests keep it moving. But we know Mr. Blue Chip's in the building, so fat chance of that. All right, son.
How's it going? Yeah, good, Grizz. Good. Happy New Year. Happy New Year from Blue Chip. Happy New Year from Grizz. Happy New Year from Evan. Good to be back. Good to be back on the show midweek as well. Nice little surprise. Yeah, lots to talk about. Nice.
Absolutely. Ev, how you doing, my brother? I hope you're very good. I saw Avi flirting with you in the studio beforehand. Hope it doesn't get to your head.
Oh well, he was flirting with you too, Grizz. He said, "Remember when we were heartthrobs too?" And
he tried to
lovely image in my head there. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I'm liking the look. The full-grown beard, Evan. You're looking, a little bit ginger in there, hint of ginger. You're looking good. You look like a young Mick Hucknall. Grizz will know who that is.
I have no idea who that is.
You look like a young Mick Hucknall.
I wish we could put up a picture. I don't know if you can do it.
Does he play cricket or something? I don't know.
No, he's a singer.
Mick Hucknall. He's a singer. Simply Red.
Simply Red.
No. The group was called Simply Red. There was no song. There was no song called Simply Red. The group was called Simply Red. Just letting you know. And
the generational gap here is cavernous. That's all.
Oh, Grizz, he's a bachaya, He's still like.
He's a man. Yeah, but the thing is, right? The thing is, Ev, right? It might be. It's not only the age. The intellect gap is huge as well. Like, we've got someone with us today. Like he actually tried to fraud. There's 350 of you in there, right? He actually tried to lie and make out there's a song called Simply the Red. It's actually Simply the Best. So Diana Ross, yeah. Right?
Oh,
Diana
I know
Ross.
Yeah.
Right. So Diana Ross sang Simply the Best. Dun, 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 and he turned Simply the Best into Simply the Red. After initially saying that you look like Mick Hucknall from Simply Red, which is two totally different things right here. My God. Yeah, here we go. KD spotted it. Simply Red to the tune of the best, Tina Turner, not Diana Ross. Sorry, I got it wrong as well.
Two waffles in the building.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this. Absolute top.
Tina Turner, my bad. I'm so sorry. Tina. All right, guys. All right. Correct. I'm sorry. Tina Turner.
Come on, let's get to some football. Come on.
Shut up.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're with the big dogs today. Please stay in your lane. But yeah, another howler. Yeah, all right, listen, it wasn't as big as howler as this one. We must start off with, obviously, the news today. When it rains, it pours, I guess. Where are we now? So we know that Virgil van Dijk was taken off at halftime against Brentford. And both Van Dijk and Klopp were optimistic when he was initially forced off that it was just a minor thing. He said, I think it's not an injury. He's fine, and he's a very good judge of kind of things. Well, how wrong was he? It's now been reported that Van Dijk is facing timeout. Hamstring injury sustained to Brentford is worse than first feared, came Joyce's initial update. No time scale has been placed on the Dutchman's recovery yet. He's to have a scan, and we're going to find out how long he's actually out for. In his absence, lads, Joe Matip is the most probable partner for Ibrahima Konate, but both have suffered injury issues themselves. Joe Gomez is the alternative, and it almost, as it says, certainly rules out any move for Nat Phillips. Mr. Blue Chip, how's that news for you?
Well, it's not the best news, is it? With Virgil being injured, I thought it was just maybe loss of form against Brentford that he came off, but there was seemingly, obviously now it seems as if there was an injury with Virgil. And with Virgil, similar to Everton when he had his ACL, we thought, okay, he's walked off. Maybe it's not as serious as we think, but he was gone for obviously a year nearly. And today, the news that he could be out for 8 weeks, and hamstring is one of those injuries that you can't rush it. You can't rush a hamstring injury. I know they did this a few times with Daniel Sturridge. People that obviously remember, a few years back when Sturridge was with us, he had a niggling hamstring injury that he just never recovered from. With Virgil, with his age 31, and he played in the World Cup, played 58, 60 games last season. It was going to take its toll on him. And he's had a bit of loss of form as well. There's no denying that. But, hopefully he can get rested and he can recover fully in time for the Madrid game. I mean, I don't want to go into that game with the three centre-backs we have, not saying anything detrimental towards them, but we do need, our big dog back for that game. And that's Virgil.
What are we talking? So what do we know? We know what we definitely know. We're playing Madrid. Does anyone have the exact date to hand?
I want to say
February 12th, is it?
February 10th or something like that. It's after President's Day here in the States.
Wow,
something like that.
So if we're looking February 10th, and today is January the 4th.
Sorry, February.
No, February 21st, Grizz. February 21st.
Okay, a little bit of karma then.
7 weeks.
God willing, he should be back because apparently it's 6 weeks minimum. So 6 weeks minimum takes us up to where, guys? Quick maths. Anyone?
Yeah, it takes up to February.
Six months would be about the 17th actually.
Oh, okay. So touch and go.
So it really is a race against time. There can't be any setback in this. Would almost mean he's missing the first leg. So.
And he's a big bloke as well. You got to remember that he's 6'3", 6'4". Obviously, you got to remember that. He's carrying a lot of muscle in that particular area as well. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, that's not the best start to already. How shall we say? A bit of a disastrous weekend.
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those when it rains it pours, doesn't it, Evan? It's becoming all too familiar theme: injuries, situations. The cynics, the real critics and cynics and pessimists will say, well, these are the kind of things that you expect the elder players to pick up injuries in a hectic season as such. World Cup, so much football being played, shorter pre-season. All of these indicate or suggest one should supplement the squad with additions and have kind of what sort of, I mean, I'm not sure who has two equal quality players in each position, but that's what you should strive for, especially if you've got a team or a squad that hasn't been added to sufficiently. It's kind of, some people won't accept it as an excuse. Are you in that category?
To step into Klopp's shoes for a minute, I think he'll see he definitely has enough at center back to get him through to mid-February. So the discussion around a center back signing, maybe a conversation to be had in the summer, perhaps, but certainly not a mid-season conversation, in my opinion. And I personally would not even advocate for that. I wasn't even advocating for an attacking signing a few weeks ago on this channel, and there you go. So the real conversation, of course, in terms of January recruitment, lies in midfield, which we're definitely going to get into. But it's when it rains, it pours is the correct expression. It's the first expression that came to mind for me. Van Dijk, barring his major injury that kept him out for 12 months, he has not been one to pick up things like hamstring strains or calf strains or sort of the more innocuous, sort of mild injury, the annoying injuries, shall we say. He's not been one to pick up the annoying injuries. So for his first annoying injury of this tier to come at this time for the club, fresh off the back of a humbling defeat, yeah, it's really poor for morale. And as fans, we're unable to separate our emotion from it, whereas people within the club have to look at it without it. So
yeah, morale, you're very true. You're very right in what you're saying. The morale is Avi, where are you putting the morale at the moment in terms of under the Klopp and FSG era? So are we saying this is second? For me, okay, I'll get my opinion out of the way and then you guys. For me, it's second only to the season where all the centre backs were injured. So what, 2 seasons ago? At this time, 2 seasons ago. For me, it's only second to that era. How do you see this sort of phase that we're going through in terms of FSG, ownership, Klopp, injuries, all of it?
Yeah, like Grizz, it's never good to have this kind of uncertainty. Ownership is one thing, we can discuss about ownership and who's coming in and take over news, but the loss of form on the pitch, lack of a midfield presence that we've begged for the last 2 summers, let alone last summer. We've been asking for a midfielder for quite a while now, and then obviously injuries now that are piling up: Diaz, Jota, Van Dijk on Sunday. It's never a good sign. There's a lot of disengagement within the club. You can just sense that the energy ain't right, and I would say it's the first time that the energy seems really off from top to bottom, especially with the appointments of Julian Ward going, Michael Edwards, 2 sporting directors within a year leaving the club. There does seem to be a lot of disengagement. We don't seem to be on the same page. And a lot of sort of dirty linen is being, it's being set out there, Grizz, out in the open, which is never the Liverpool way, but it has happened in recent times, pre-Klopp, during little bits of Klopp too, and it's happening again now. They need to fix this and fix this fast if we have any aspirations to be a Champions League team next season, Grizz.
Yeah, look, I kind of agree with you. Someone's just said you've forgotten, where is it gone? You've forgotten Rodgers. I literally said Jurgen Klopp's era. That's why I forgot about the Rodgers era. But yeah, some people think it's worse than that season. Feel free to leave your comments what you guys think. If you guys think it's worse than that season.
I think 2 summers ago, there wasn't no problem with ownership. Yes, we wanted FSG to spend on a centre back, but we always knew that Konate was wanted.
I agree with you, but morale-wise. So doesn't the ownership situation suggest that there's something positive on the horizon as well that levels up the morale maybe? Do you know what I mean? Like then we knew what we are, but we had no centre backs, no signings. Kabak and Davis signed in January. But how the fuck are we going to reach top 4? I know we ended up reaching top 4. I'm just talking about from a morale point of view. Cast your minds back. I'm not sure. I can't make my mind up.
I think in terms of assessing the health of the squad and the club right now, it's definitely worse. Maybe on paper it was worse 2 seasons ago in the COVID season, but in terms of a reflection of where we're at as a club and as a team, it's definitely worse because 2 seasons ago, it was like Liverpool are experiencing an injury crisis that is a complete anomaly. It is statistically unlikely to ever happen again. The record we set for center back partnerships that season will never be broken. Ever.
Yeah, but don't start that. Let's say never, because we're slowly picking up injuries in every position of the pitch.
I'll knock on wood for you right
now.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
The likelihood of a team replicating anything close to what we did in terms of partnerships is very unlikely. But right now, well, I guess the underlying feeling of that era was that as soon as we get our defenders back and as soon as we get to the off season, we'll be fine and we'll go again. And that's exactly what we did the next season. So close to immortality, right? Point total in the 90s, Champions League final, domestic cup runs. Like we showed that we could bounce back, with the exception of some unfortunate injuries to Jota and Diaz. We are essentially as full strength as we could be. Now you add Van Dijk to that list, but recency bias, I'm taking him out. Now it's that much more discouraging because this is the team, I should say, that Klopp and co thought was good enough to challenge on all fronts. And
I think Matt's text or message, what do you call it? Message? What do you call it? I've realized what you call comment. Of course you do. Matt, I think I know. I know. New year and all that, still recovering. But I think he's right, Evan. Like, morale is worse now, in my view. The centre-back was an aberration, what you've been saying. Having a crisis again due to lack of foresight has a different type of sting.
Exactly. So because we've trusted Klopp, and for so long we were the team that made amazing decisions in terms of recruitment. We were the smartest people in the room. So to suddenly find ourselves in a position where we're essentially out of the title race by Christmas, and it's very obvious, like Avi said, dirty linen being hung in public, no longer the smartest people in the room, and the squad isn't good enough. It has a different sting. It definitely has a different sting.
There doesn't seem to be any fighting talk either this season. Like, there's not been real fighting talk, like with Klopp saying, you know what, we're going to get this right. We're going to get this right. We will, solidify top four, and we're just going through a barren run. Whereas 2 years ago, he was always adamant, look, I'm going to get it right. I know we've got the injuries, but stick with this team. Those words seemingly have been lost. And Brentford, for the first time, Grizz, under Klopp's tenure against Brentford, he just seemed on the pitch, on the touchline, he seemed a little bit disillusioned of what's happening. Now, I don't know what that is, but for me, when Boemo scores the third, he's just sort of like, and I'm not saying he's given up here, not by any means. I'm not saying that. He just seemed a little bit confused of why isn't what we're trying to translate to this set of players, why aren't they not doing it? Why aren't they not performing those tasks on the pitch?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, because I was at the ground and I was feeling like that. I can just imagine. Because he must have, I don't know, I looked at the bench, Avi, and I was thinking, how does he change this? What does he change it with? Look at the options. It's just, it was not a nice feeling, I'm not going to lie. We've got a brilliant segue, actually, from, look who we got the brilliant segue from, Billy Khanage. I mean, I don't plan these things, guys. You already know this. I don't plan these things. This is amazing. Damn, Grizz looks older and older by the day. Thank you very much for that. This season is killing us all. Billy Khanage is a great segue, because how do we get out of this? Give me 1 second. I should be able to work this out on my own.
We're really going to spend a few minutes on Billy Khanage.
No, we've got it. No, I'm just letting you guys know. So just in case people panic about sort of, the two things I intellect. Of course, our friends at Redmen TV, I'm using their tweet because they're the only ones that won't use me for copyright or anything like that. Billy Khanage is being recalled from a loan spell in Austria, had made 11 first team appearances of Austria, also making 4 for the youth side. It has nothing, I repeat, to do with the Virgil van Dijk injury. There's no need to panic. It's just Billy Khanage. Avi,
but what are these kind of, no, I know, but I'm sorry, but what are these players kind of lingering around for?
He's just not very good. I mean, not because some people were saying, "Oh my God, we understand now." Billy Khanage is being brought back because of the.
Was it not a preseason game 3 years back? Cost your mind 3 years back. Where you actually called him Billy the Kid? That Billy the Kid actually emanates from Grizz on a different channel. He called Billy. He actually rated Billy Khanage.
No, there's no rating. I called him Billy the Kid. That doesn't mean rating him. He was a 16-year-old that was Billy the Kid.
You know, actually, I've been very harsh on our kids. In the last few months, especially one in particular. I don't want to say anything towards Billy Khanage. He isn't, unfortunately,
irrelevant.
But we wish him a good career elsewhere. Like maybe the Major League, B League, or something like that. He could set up a career. I could even get a US visa if he wanted to.
I just thought I'd get that out of the way, because in case people think that it's linked to do with anything, it's not. Just going to get some super chats out of the way, guys. In fact, can you get the super chats out of the way, please, Avi? I need to find something on my screen.
Yeah.
They're
There
in the
is some
stars
big news
section.
coming out of Boston Red Sox, but we can address that later on.
Okay.
We're not
Smash the lights, guys. You've done that already. Sorry, my bad. I'm out of practice. First super chat from Gandar Yedsikar. I hope I've said that right and haven't butchered that name. Dreading playing Real Madrid with our midfielders against theirs. You know, yeah, got Camavinga, Cruz, Modric, Valverde.
That's how you
yeah,
future-proof a midfield, right
potentially,
there. Wow.
potentially Jude in January for them if they really push. But anyway, another super chat from Guzmo. Thanks for the super chat, guys. Thank you for all the shows lately. Therapy sessions for me this season. Just one thing, it's really quiet on Full Sail lately. Is it really on? Shall we address that now, Grizz?
Yeah, go for it.
Shout out to his profile pic, which is exactly how I feel as a Liverpool fan right now.
Was it
I'm
Loch
drowning.
Ness? Is that the Loch Ness monster?
No,
Loch Ness monster.
It's a man with two peace signs, and I imagine he's in my mind he's drowning. That's how I feel.
Well, we
I'm
don't.
saying goodbye.
It's
been real.
Hopefully that's not a real picture. Sale. Look, guys. Loads of reports saying the club is for sale, partial investment. I said my piece quite a while back. It didn't happen. It didn't come to fruition. End of November. So hands up. I was mistaken, or the information that I got was false. But I still believe the club will be sold. I don't think for 1 second it will be a partial investment. The club will be sold. It's just about finding the right buyer. Grizz, anything on that?
Yeah, what I told you a couple of days ago. So my understanding is there's only been one formal bid for the club, 3.2 billion, and it was refused basically. We're looking for more. I still believe the club. I'm agreeing with you, Avi. I think the club will be sold, but it's not advanced at all at the moment. They want closer to £4 billion, and they believe they will get it. So yeah, it's just a matter of sitting tight. That's all I know. But I don't think it's. Some people are saying it's a gimmick from them, and they're sort of just playing games with our emotions and things like that, and trying to get away from not spending.
No, they want to sell.
I think they do. And did you star that about the Boston Red Sox, because it may be interlinked?
Oh, I will do. I've got it anyway. That news.
Okay, so go on. Yeah,
Ryan Nicholas, thanks for the super chat. Don't need D or forwards. Can't get distracted again. Yeah, it's a fair assessment. Look, we everyone knows we've needed a midfielder for the last 2-3 years. I can't believe that we brought two midfielders since Genie's departure. Is that true?
One, isn't it? One midfielder
Thiago
in 6
and then
windows,
Arthur, isn't it? And alone, yeah. So yeah, it's shocking. It's shocking.
One midfield in 6 windows. Mo Mohammed says, finish third in 2021 would be a miracle this season. Yeah, fair point. Absolutely fair point. Shane McGee says, you'd think FSG would spend to make sure the investment would keep its value. UCL important too. From a business standpoint, sale has to happen soon. I agree absolutely. Just for clarity purposes, right, Evan? It's just everything is just so up in the air, unclear.
Every issue that people want to discuss, like everything roots back to this one thing. Like all these questions that we want answered, all this movement, all the changes that we want to see are probably stuck in the mud until a sale is done. People say they want a new recruitment strategy, they want bigger pockets, they want clarity over the next few windows, they want this, they want that. None of the questions that we all have burning inside of us will probably be answered until there's a new owner. So yeah.
Philippe H, Newcastle fan. Yeah, man. Welcome to the big league, Philippe. We must get you on the show soon, man. Talk Newcastle, man. You need to talk your team up. So message me on Twitter or Instagram, and we're gonna get you on one of the Premier League Khanage shows, man. Come on. No one needs to message you. Stay out of his DMs. Just message me. He's not a good person to message. I still think LFC will get top 4 if they get a midfielder. Top 3 locked with City, Arsenal, and United. Interesting, United in there as well. We may get top 4 if LFC don't get a midfielder. Great show, lads. Thank you very much, as always, Philip. Guys, let's get into sort of today. I guess today's breaking news, yesterday's breaking news from where are we talking from? We're talking from hold on, let's get this up. Matheus Nunes, who some people linked to Liverpool in this last summer, and then some people's links were scoffed at by sort of local media and whatnot. It so now transpires that Nunes has emerged as a target for the Reds' Jurgen Klopp's plot of a revamp of his midfield. Sort of according to the Telegraph, Sam Wallace, and I don't know the first, is it James Percy? Does anybody
John Percy,
know?
isn't it? John Percy from the Telegraph.
I beg your pardon, John Percy. So John Percy and Sam Wallace, who are very, very reliable, especially John in terms of Wolves. John Percy. So basically, John Percy is like the Paul Joyce of Wolves.
Of the Midlands area, yeah.
Of the Midlands.
Yeah.
So his information suggests that we have a deal in place for the summer if we so choose to go for him. I'm going to come to you first, Mr. Blue Chip, because flowers are due to you, because you are one of the guys that, no, you are the only guy that actually mentioned him to me. And in fact, you didn't just mention it to me. You actually, as you do, mention it to the World Wide Web. And we have it here. We have, I would bet there's a gentleman's agreement between Wolves and Mendes that a certain figure would trigger a release clause for Matheus Nunes. 15th of September, 2022. It's your time to speak on it, Mr. Blue Chip.
Yeah, look, just one of those, players, I put quite a lot of players out there, but again, with this one, there was a strong link to him last summer. And very early after the Tuchemani deal had been confirmed, I said to you, Grizz, and I said it on Twitter that Matheus Nunes is our second choice. Funnily enough, like this, there's concrete, legitimate interest there from obtaining him from Sporting Lisbon, and the deal is there. Literally, Mendes was putting it on a plate for us, and it was up to us to trigger that. So the money was there because we know that he went to Wolves for 38 million. Somehow, Grizz, we didn't fancy him, but we did keep tabs for whatever reason that is, and I was then relayed the information that, look, Mendes is only seeing Matheus Nunes there for a year at Wolves for his 1 year experience in the PL. And then a club of Liverpool's ilk will go in for him. And, with Sam Wallace and John Percy confirming a few days ago that they do believe a deal is in place for Matheus Nunes if, and there's it's still a big if we want to trigger it. And I believe that we will. For me, he's a combative machine. I've been raving about him. I wouldn't take his stint at Wolves much notice because we know that Bruno Lage was effectively a defensive manager. And then obviously Julian Lopetegui has come in and, they're still finding his feet. But he played well against United, I felt. Played well today. He's a progressive ball carrier. He meets the stats, good in the standing tackle. And look, he's 24. We need, and if you see where we are at now with our what do you call them, a band of midfielders, we have a higher tier of ages in the 30s and plus, then we have a lower tier in terms of the 18, 19-year-olds. We don't have anyone in the middle between the 23 to 27 where we need that energy, where we need that, durability in that midfield three. Our best seasons were with Gini, Fabinho, Hendo, right? Those three were pivotal. They might not have been the most creative, but we had those three workhorses. And I think Klopp needs to go back to that and revert that into the system going forward next season, because I don't believe we'll get, we ain't going to get 2-3 midfielders in January. So for next season, I think Matheus Nunes is the first sort of, jigsaw in part of that midfield puzzle that he can fix. And by no means is he an alternative to Jude Bellingham. He's not an alternative. I think if we do secure Jude, they will complement each other very, very well. And then still in the need of a defensive midfielder.
Ev, just before the show, when I asked you to get some information and all of your fancy Dan graphs that I never understand, but they make so much sense to the world, you suggested that there's not much point looking at his time at Wolves, and I agreed with you because obviously the image of majority of people maybe that didn't watch him at Sporting Lisbon would be, okay, let's see what he's done in sort of Wolves and the Premier League. But our track record of buying from lower Premier League teams is pretty good, right? We're talking Gini Wijnaldum from Newcastle relegated. We're talking about Robertson. We're talking Mascherano from West Ham. None of these guys we ever had. Southampton, Mane. We never thought that these guys would become the players that they become. So you was right. There's no really point looking at his time at Wolverhampton. But what do you know about this guy? Because what do we lack? We lack right now. What have we been screaming for 6 months or so? Energy, legs, pace, power, bit of strength, drive. I'm assuming this guy ticks all those boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. No real point to look at the data for his time at Wolves because it's a very small sample size. I mean, we're talking less than half a season. And obviously, Wolves have had 2 different managers. It's his first season there, and they've been largely shit. Let's just call it what it is. So you're much better off looking at his time at Sporting. And I actually, when he was getting linked, I actually did some work on looking at them. I'm hoping you guys can see that now.
Yeah. Get this off.
This is so this was sort of some names that were bouncing around last summer. You know, the 2 guys out of Porto, Vitinha and Vieira, who have moved on respectively, and then Matheus Nunes. And I compared them with some of our other RCM options, or so you will any of our 3 midfielders who were occupying the right side of midfield on a daily basis, with the exception of Harvey Elliott. You can see Matheus Nunes is really well-rounded. So in terms of progressive distance per 90 is on the bottom there. He carries the ball very well, and then successful pressures on the top there. He also successfully applies pressure and wins the ball back quite a lot. So this is just confirmation of what you just asked for, Grizz. You want a guy who has the tenacity and the drive and the skill to carry the ball forward, but also to counter press when needed. Because I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody on the panel right now when I say that our press this season has been dismal. Really, really just dismal. It's still there. We still do press, perhaps not as much as recent seasons, but it's been so ineffective, and our ability to win duels has been severely compromised. So it's really important for us to have a player like Matheus Nunes. And then right here that I can share from here, it might be a bit difficult to read because the print is small. This is just the progressive carrying leaders in the Premier League right now. You can see Bernardo Silva is head and shoulders the best. Then there's some familiar faces, Michael Olise, Mateo Kovacic. You can even see Thiago and Harvey Elliott in there as well, Kevin De Bruyne, Declan Rice, Rodri. And then Matheus Nunes is right down there apart from Harvey Elliott. And where the 2 dotted lines intersect there, Grizz, in the graph, that's the Premier League average. So he's well above average in terms of just carrying the ball. And that's still, in this really underwhelming spell for Wolves, which, been tons of things out of his control and things like that. But the most flattering aspects are just watching his highlights for Sporting. He's the way he gets himself out of trouble when receiving the ball with his back to goal. Like oftentimes in his own half, the way he gets out of trouble and
very
sheds pressure.
Very Genie-esque in that.
Very Genie-esque, but there's a little more of a skillful edge there that reminds me of Frankie de Jong. And I'll stick my neck out and say that it's high praise. But the way he's able to sort of just roll the defender. Genie was very good at rolling the defender, but he would often just hand it off to somebody else. Matheus Nunes will roll the defender, find a pocket, and then go for it, which is something I think even the most ardent Genie supporter wished that Genie would do more often during his time at Liverpool. In the Champions League round of 16 last season, when Man City knocked Sporting out, Pep Guardiola called Matheus Nunes one of the best midfielders on the planet. High praise from a guy who knows how to recruit midfielders. And Man City were one of the names being linked with him last summer, along with us and Wolves. Once it became clear that Tchouaméni was going to Madrid and that Bellingham was not an option for summer 2022, but out of all the names that were bouncing around in the midfield circus that summer, and there was a lot, Nunes was my pick. I mean, Abby would always ask me, "What do you think of this player? What do you think of that player?" I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then he asked me, "What do you think of Matheus Nunes?" And I was like, "Wow." I thought he was incredible, and I really pushed for him pretty hard in my own modest way. So to hear that he has seemingly just been parked at Wolves for a season by Jorge Mendes or his reps, and it's like this unofficial loan where he's promised he gets a shot at Liverpool next year or vice versa. It's a weird thing. It's definitely something. I wouldn't say it's shady practice, but it's not very transparent, is it? So I think he would be a great complementary piece, because I think, I speak for everybody. We all have different opinions on which midfield targets we want in the summer. But one thing everyone agrees on is it can't just be Jude. So Jude and Nunes plus another body, I think that looks fantastic already, because I rate those two players extremely highly.
There you go, guys. Pretty much a comprehensive analysis of Matheus Nunes. Avi, anything to add or subtract from there? Because I pretty much agree, and I liked your example of Ginny, because in the morning when I was planning on the show and how, so we all try to pick our new midfield, right, in our heads, and the only evidence and the only real hard evidence we have is the midfield that was Gini, Henderson, and Fabinho will go down as one of the most successful in recent times, bar none. And if we look at the attributes of those three combined, it got me excited, because the three names that we're gonna, in essence, talk about today could be the makings of a replica of that midfield, right? So, because what we've tried to do is mad, Avi, and we've discussed it to death. We've replaced Henderson and Gini with Elliott and Jones, let's just say, right? It's mad. You couldn't get two contrasts in players, right? Yeah. I've discussed it with you. We picked two youngsters who played as wide attacking forwards, free roles, and tried to discipline them and mold them into a Jurgen Klopp pressing machine, efficiency machine. But the two guys that we're going to discuss, and the first one, Matheus Nunes, absolutely fits the bill. Everything that you've said about Gini running with the ball, driving with the ball, and having tactical nous. Apparently, the Wolves manager, I'm not going to attempt to say his name like you did, has been playing him in a more defensive position as well.
Lopetegui.
So therefore, Lopetegui, is that it? Is that so easy?
Lopetegui.
Yeah, because you know what he said, didn't
you just say
no.
He's actually Spanish.
No.
Please stop yourself, idiot. It's
Lopetegui. It's 2023, Avi, and you still said Tuchemeni about 5 minutes ago. So shut your mouth.
He's gone. He's long gone.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Can you? But everything that you said, but everything that Evan showed us as well, it suggests that this is not going back, but moving forward. We need to get some of that energy and drive back, and this guy definitely has it. Because I'm like Evan, you did bring him to my attention, and I much preferred him to your other shouts of Fabio Vieira and Goncalves, etc., etc. I liked this guy more.
He should have been, once Gini left, he should have been the first target. And look, it's high praise from managers when you get called the best midfielder in the world. But for someone like Pep Guardiola to call you that, a Guardiola who was a defensive midfielder himself, he knows a thing or two about footballers and midfielders. And Matheus Nunes, he fit the bill last season, and it would have taken him, same as Fabinho, maybe 2-3 months to get used to the Premiership. But as you see him now, like, he played really well against Villa today. I think in the last 20 he started to tire, but that's understandable. Bruno Lage was trying to put him in a 10 just recently, and it wasn't working. And he was subbed, and rightly so. But it seems as if he's got back to his position alongside Moutinho and Neves in that midfield three, and he's more workmanlike and he's more progressive. Gini, would rotate around the center circle and just keep the ball moving. He does the same things, but he does a little bit more. He's very progressive with the ball, and this is why he should be a shoo-in. And despite of whether we push on with the Caicedos and the Bellinghams, Matheus Nunes is the first element in the next sort of rebuild in returns of the midfield. I think we've got the forward line based, sort of ticked off. The defense maybe a centre back, we're missing maybe in the next year or so. But Matheus Nunes is probably the first player part of that new rebuild that we need. Because look, Henderson hasn't got the legs anymore. Fabinho's form is questionable. Thiago will be 32. And then obviously he's tried Elliott there, but we've said what we've said about Elliott. He just doesn't fit at the moment into what Klopp's trying to implement. And if Klopp reverts back to that system where we just had hard workers, we had press machines, then Matheus Nunes would be, for me, in my eyes, would be one of the first targets that we get in that midfield.
A question to both of you, just to end up on the Matheus Nunes stuff and what we think is the major issue of most people have, and I don't get why, guys. Help me here. Maybe I'm being a bit too calm down, Grizz. Calm me down. But why is it an issue for people that, okay, we didn't sign him last season, right? When we could have got him for Avy, what, 40 million, 44 million?
38 million.
Okay, let's say 40 million. No, because apparently they paid 44 million for him. Okay, so let's say 44 million. Now, from the reliable reports of Percy and Wallace, it suggests that we have already an agreement in place for circa 50 million. Why are people up in arms and saying, oh my God, why didn't we sign him last season? Because we did it for whatever reason. It was wrong, looking back. But surely forget about it and move on now. Or do we need to kick up a fuss about it and say there's something wrong here? Why did we do it like this? Do you get what I mean? It should be an irrelevant point, or is there relevancy to it?
No, I think there's, Evan, just a quick one. I think there's been hesitancy when it comes to finding.
Sorry, very quick one.
Yep, sorry.
Be wise, I haven't missed your super chat. We've
started.
Yeah, we've started when it's the relevant chat. Nice one, appreciate that, bro.
I think there's been hesitancy in the whole makeup of our midfield department, Grizz. And yeah, it's beggars belief considering that we pulled the trigger on Arthur, from Juventus on loan on the last day of the transfer window when a player of Matheus Nunes was available and literally, being offered to us saying, hey, look, this player is available from Sporting, take him, and we didn't. So I just feel that there has been hesitancy in the midfield department of what direction is Liverpool going forward with, because we've seen that with Elliott, they're trying to be more sort of a little bit more risky in that midfield area, maybe, a little bit more forward thinking, maybe creating more chances, but it's been detrimental to the defensive side of our team. So I think we're stuck in the middle. I think we're stuck in at the moment of what is the route to go. Shall we stick with what we had, where we had robust, combative, powerful players, 90 minute plus players who would just run for the cause and just make sure they would press, and the front three would do their devastating work, up front and, up top? Or do we have to have two strong midfielders and then a creative alt midfielder like an Elliott who can maybe play and be a little bit risky and don't worry too much about his defensive stuff, and have two sitting midfielders? Caicedo and Nunes would complement each other very well. We know with Caicedo, he can play the 6 very comfortably. He can play an 8. You just have to watch his performance yesterday against Everton, of how much creativity this player has. And he's already we always sort of assume that Caicedo is a little bit, of a 6, more defensive, but yesterday, my God, he was everywhere yesterday. So they would complement each other.
Evan, as you've just heard, he's skipped on to the next topic where we specifically told him before the show, not to speak about.
I get carried.
Yeah.
I know you do. It's fine, no problem. It's been a while. We enjoy you getting carried away. But Evan, people are up in arms because it's just the latest screw up in this shit show the club is right now. It's not an isolated incident. Where do you stand in the we didn't pursue it then? And is there anything in your mind to suggest that it was overruled? Why was it overruled? Have you any opinions on it? And are you okay with it? Let's rectify it as soon as possible, which is summer, not now, because obviously we can't register him now.
I think Avi's right in the sense that it reflects that there's a lot of hesitancy. If people are upset that we're paying 5 to 10 million more this summer than we could have paid last summer for him, that's some misplaced anger. That's not that much money, 5 million, 10 million for a club like ours. And especially, it's not that much of an uptick if you're doing the thing of you let him do the stepping stone move, because so often we see players we're interested in, they go to Leipzig, they go to Dortmund, all of a sudden they cost north of 80 million. So I think we should be fortunate.
Evan, the caveat to that is he hasn't pulled up any trees at Wolves either. So why are we triggering that? Why are we triggering that now? It's not as if he's shown us, oh yeah, we do miss that, because we haven't seen that enough of him. So why?
No.
What's the caveat to that? Why have we now all of a sudden said, no, you know what? Let's push on with Matheus Nunes for the summer, because he's not shown it for the last 6 months. That's why I say to people, take his work at Wolves with a pinch of salt. Go on.
Yeah, definitely take it with a pinch of salt. If he's being bought for what he did at Sporting, he's not being bought for what he did at Wolves. Definitely not. I think it is a bit of a shit show. You know, if the player was there to be signed in the summer for for a reasonable fee in an inflated market, then you absolutely have to go for it. I think there is some hesitancy. There's some indecisiveness. This is all sort of this narrative is fed into by the fact that we've lost 2 sporting directors in the last 12 months. So it all hints towards things not being right at home. And then within the last 30 days, we've had multiple reports from tier 1 journalists saying Klopp has a bigger say in transfers now. Pep Linders has a bigger say in transfers now. Then there's Ian Graham, head of research, is resigning as well. So you have all these key figures from the recruitment and analyst side of the mechanism leaving, and then you get all these reports that these figures in the coaching side of the recruitment mechanism are getting more sway, and their voices are louder in terms of the recruitment process. So based on the evidence we have to work with, it indicates that there's been a significant shift lately, and not a shift that has yielded good results in the transfer window so far. Now, I was immensely disappointed when we didn't get a midfielder, and I was beginning to have, like fears over is everything all right at home? And then all these reports came out and spelled out very clearly and without any doubt that no, not everything is all right at home.
Guys, just a very quick message. There's close to 800 of you guys in here. Please show respect to each other. You've been fine to us so far. Assad says, yo, Grizz, what's up with the mods, bro? Timing me out. Only time out people for trolling, non-stop trolling, and any form of abuse. Homophobic, racist, xenophobic, anything like that. Nothing else. Banter's allowed. Wind-ups allowed. Guys, yeah, look, this risk-taking that Klopp referred to, Avi, this was one of those examples, wasn't it? A prime example. Like, Nunes could have been bought, was obviously scouted by the analytical team, presented forward to Pep Linders, who you have started becoming, well, no, let's call it a spade, starting to have a bit of an issue with, I'd say. Do you want to speak on it? And obviously Twitter's gone wild now. So everything that happens is because of Pep Linders. Whether we win, whether we lose, whether we draw, it's Pep Linders. Like 6 months ago, we were on the quest of immortality. Klopp was the Don. I beg your pardon. Klopp was the Don. Fast forward 6 months. Pep's a dog.
No, I wouldn't go that far, because I would never insult someone like that. So maybe retract what you just called Pep Linders there. Look, for me, it didn't sit well with him releasing that book. And I know it's a sort of like, boring story now, but that doesn't sit well with me. Releasing a book when we're embarking on another sort of season, a grueling season, going toe to toe with City, and we're releasing these books and he's handing them out to all the players. Caroline, the catering canteen lady, it just doesn't sit well with me. I do feel that he does have more of a say in the club in terms of player recruitment. Maybe has more of a say in how we should set up. I think we saw it yesterday in some articles from some respected journalists that, and Jamie Carragher called him up on it as well, that look, maybe the influence by Pep Linders is a bit too much for this football club at the moment, and we're doing stuff that we wouldn't usually do. But look, in terms of player recruitment, the 4 players that seemingly are his choice, Luis Diaz, the less said about that, the better, because I don't want to get cringy again about, my love for Luis Diaz. Darwin Nunes, I was a big fan of prior to the Champions League games. So, that's another signing that I would have welcomed. Cody Gakpo has got to convince me. I'll be the first to put my hand up and say I'm not convinced yet by Cody Gakpo, regardless of the World Cup and his stats at PSV. But look, Matheus Nunes is someone that I've been supportive of, but I was told last summer that it was Pep Lijnders that didn't sort of advocate for he didn't push for that signing, and they were maybe, it wasn't just Klopp so much, but Pep Lijnders saying, I'm not sure about Nunes yet. So I don't know how 6 months down the line, and again, that could be hearsay. People could call me up and saying that's bollocks, which is fair enough. But so now 6 months seemingly down the line, without again Nunes pulling up any stats, 1 assist in 14 games, no goals. All of a sudden, he is the right fit for us, and we're paying 7 million on top of the premium, which we could have gotten for 44. So,
but doesn't this also suggest? I'm going to play devil's advocate here, guys, for the sake of balance. Doesn't this also suggest it could be a wise, clever move? It's the equivalent of putting someone on loan for a season in the Premier League to see how he does. Already fixed a deal with him, personal terms have been agreed, everything is set in stone, the fees been agreed. So it's like giving a player on loan to a fellow Premier League team, keep a close eye on him for the fee of 5-6 million.
But Grizz, you keep a close eye on him, but only if he impresses you, right? He's only impressed in the last 2 games, really, in the games that I've seen him. But I do believe if he comes to Liverpool, he'll be a great player for us.
But sometimes it's not about the impressing. If you've scouted for someone for so long, you're not going to give up on him, giving him to a lower league team in the league. You're just giving him the experience. And also the main point of this all is we haven't actually bought him yet. So we could still assess him. We've still got half the season to go, guys. There's 20 games to go, over 20 games minimum to go. And
he played brilliant today. Everything that we've been missing, he produced that today.
So the point I'm trying to make is, look, of course, when we're enraged and we're in a fit and everything's going wrong, we just want to look for the negative, and it's like a snowball effect. But sometimes just stop ourselves and think, okay, maybe it kind of makes sense. And also, if he has got an influence on signings, Evan, it's not a novelty. Assistant coaches. We have some very, very famous assistant coaches of recent times, the likes of Carlos Queiroz, the Jose Mourinho one, Brian Kidd, quite a few come to mind. Man City's one, Pep Seguera, who came from Liverpool, actually. So having an influence and taking training sessions per se is not an issue. Yes, if the performance dips over a period of season, then sure, questions need to be asked about the tactics and what's the mentality shift in terms of style of play. But in terms of having influence of signings, those players that Avi's rattled off, I'm pretty certain all of us are quite excited with them as well. So there are not any sort of signings in there that we'd say, wow, that's such a bias, and where did we pull that from? Why would we go for him type signing in there?
Yeah, you're right. It's not a new thing. The assistant manager thing for assistant managers to carry sway. This is not a new phenomenon. This is perhaps now it's just being hung out in the public, as you can imagine. And here's the thing, the outlets that report these things and send out reports saying Pep Lijnders has had an increased say in this, that, and the other. They're sensing the temperature of Pep Lijnders on the Twitter timeline, and they know what will generate clicks and engagement and things like that. Here's the thing. Do Lijnders and Klopp deserve some criticism for how this season has gone? Absolutely. Yes. But you're right. The hate is getting very much so overblown. The release of a book, you know what I mean? During a season where we're not doing well. It's just a weird time. You know what I mean? For the club, we would love to have some clarity on the steadying of the ship.
Direction.
Direction is what we all want. And like I said before, it all steers back to ownership, because new ownership will almost certainly install a new sporting director. And, is this new sporting director going to be a Michael Edwards-like figure who famously talked Klopp out of Brandt and into Mohamed Salah? And so what type of person can we get in? And again, all comes down to ownership. Who is going to steer this ship? Because it can't just be Klopp and Pep Linders. That's unfair to them, and I don't think they want it that way. So again, until there's a significant update in terms of how the club is being run and what the next 4 years look like, what's our 4-year plan, we just don't really know. And I do think the constant speculation is doing nobody
any favors. I absolutely agree with Avi in terms of the book, the timing of it. The only issue I have is the timing of it. A, because you're still at the club. B, we've got so much more to achieve, right? So therefore, you don't need to start gloating already. There's been bigger assistants, more successful assistants, Avi, would you say? Of course, coaches, that have won far more. The timing was bad. Everything else for me is just a snowballing effect of just toxicity and tirade of abuse, just sort of jumping on every single thing. And these newspapers love it. They absolutely love it. But the only way we will get clarity, and I agree with Evan, what he says to round this section up, is until we don't have a sporting director to see what kind of direction we're taking this club in terms of, is it going to be solely based on analytics, Avi? Because all our signings are based on analytics, Moneyball. But can I put this forward to you again? Devil's advocate, doesn't mean I'm agreeing with it or whatever. I'm just putting it out there for everyone to participate, guys, as well in the chat. There's 830 of you guys, and there's only about 300 likes. That's poor.
What's going on? What's going on?
Smash up some likes. Oh, calm down. Put the calm down. Sabr. I don't know if Evan remembers sabr means calm down. We used to say that a lot to Avi, yeah. Okay, so if we're having a change of direction and a change of ownership, like we kind of assume we are, and I'm pretty certain that we are, the Moneyball effect was used to take us to a certain place, from a certain place. If now we are not really in the Moneyball theory, philosophy to go forward, to sustain it, then of course we need a total different type of team of analytics. Is that fair to say as well? So therefore we may not be looking for that market. I'm not saying this is it. I'm just saying that's what they could be thinking. So for example, when we listen to Jurgen Klopp saying the future is bright, I want some more risks, I can go for better players, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we're shopping. Maybe we're going in a different direction. Maybe the levels of purchases are changing now. Now we're not looking for Takis, Shakiris, Origis, of course we get one or two signings, the big ones, but maybe we're shopping in a different market now. Is there such a theory?
Yeah, but I just don't believe there's a theory that even if new owners come, and regardless of how rich they are, that we're going to be shopping at Harrods, we're going to be shopping at the creme de la creme all the time. I think the way Klopp likes to work and how the coaches would like to work is they'll buy like a Bellingham, say for example, they'll buy a Bellingham, but then have 2-3 pieces of like 30 million, 40 million pound players who are younger and elevate them and make them the stardom, the kind of star players that we're accustomed to, like the Salahs, the Manes, the Bobbies. So I think the analytics still have to play a big part in this quiz. I think Gakpo meets a lot of the analytics of what we're looking for. He just isn't a let's get him in because he's hot property of the month in the Eredivisie or in the World Cup. We've got him because there's stats that prove that he'll be a great fit for us. Darwin Nunes was a bit out of the norm because he wasn't usually the striker that we sort of have profiling for a number 9. But I think we looked at a lot of what City are doing, and I'm by no means comparing Haaland or Nunes, but I think we looked at what City were doing and thought, okay, we need to kind of react, and maybe the going forward is we get like a player of Nunes' ilk, pace, hangs around that, a fox in the box in that penalty area, and can make runs in behind where Bobby couldn't. So I think we are changing here and there. I also think that Grizz, look, and not many will want to hear it, but there was once upon a time, I think at Liverpool, during the glory days, called the Boot Room. Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan. It could well be that Jurgen Klopp sees Pep Linders, again, not sure many will want to hear this, he sees Pep Linders as his natural successor. Hence, he's probably had a bit more say in terms of signings, because Klopp will be here till what, 2026, we're presuming? So another 3 years, maybe. And I'm not saying that they're this forward thinking, because proof has shown that we're not at the moment. But maybe he's seeing that, look, these signings are more suited to Pep Linders, who may be the natural successor when Klopp hangs up his boots or says, like, my time's up now. Maybe that's the natural progression they see, and you just never know. You just never know. It is far-fetched, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's what Klopp and the whole structure at the moment is if that's what his thinking is.
We need to get some clarity, basically, and the quicker we do, then the less of these stories or articles will be written, etc., etc. Some super chats to get through before we get into some midfielder chat, other midfielder chat. Ryan says, need to get out Fab on 180k per week and Hendo 140k per week. So Hendo, look, pretty much probably his one more season, probably as a squad player. Fabinho, devil's advocate here, guys. 50 million bid comes in for Fabinho.
We're not going to get 50 million.
Okay, devil's, hyper.
No, but who's going to pay 50 million in this day and age at the moment? Tell me in which world are you living in that we're going to get 50 million for Fabinho? Tell me.
Is he serious? Is he serious?
Tell me. No, yeah, I'm serious. Tell me. Name me a club. Name me a club that needs a Fabinho
20-year-old, a 28-year-old,
29-year-old in October. 29 in October.
Stop it. The prices for midfielders these days, right? You're talking about,
going to get 50 million. He's not going to get 50 million for this.
I'll do a poll. If I knew how to do a poll, I'd do a poll, and you'd get blasted.
Which club realistically right now?
Okay, that was not the question. Answer the question.
Name me a club though. Name me a club. Real Madrid? No, they don't need a Fabinho.
PSG, all these clubs would spend 50.
No, you could score.
Okay, you stay quiet. Okay, you just stay quiet. Evan, 50 million.
I will stay quiet now.
50 million.
Javi, it's a fucking hypothetical. Bro,
No,
but don't get hypothetical. Be realistic. Say.
Go on, Evan.
It's just a hypothetical. It's not that deep. It's really not that deep. And to be honest, no. And I say this because of this reasoning. When we were missing all of our center backs 2 seasons ago, there was plenty of these discussions around like Gomez and Matip, right? Because they were injury prone, and they got season-ending injuries alongside Van Dijk. And people were like, "Oh, in the summer, would you take this amount of money for them?" And I remember thinking, we just had our lack of center back depth in like quality, decent options, like completely exposed. And you want to get rid of our depth? Can we afford to get rid of Fabinho? We never replaced Genie, and all of a sudden people have faith that we would take 50 million for Fabinho and replace him like that. Well, in our heads, we would do that because that's what we would do on Football Manager, you and I. That's clearly not how Klopp and Pep think. You know what they would do is they would be like, ooh, 50 million. Now Stefan Bajcetic has a clear run into the first team. That's how they would think. So to these people who would say, oh, I would let Fabinho go for 50 million, be careful what you wish for. Because your reaction to how you perceive that 50 million is much different than how owners and or players would perceive 50 million pounds. And I am in no rush to get rid of a guy who not so long ago was a top 3 holding midfielder in the world minimum. Has he declined? Yes, he has. But how much of his decline has to do with the stylistic flaws in our midfield system currently? I guarantee you stick some pace and power.
Evan. He's being overrun.
Exactly. He's been run into the ground. He's been overplayed, run into the ground. His biggest security these days is Thiago. With all due respect to him, because his duel and tackle interception rates are phenomenal. That is who his defensive cover is
in
midfield these days. Yeah.
And Elliot on the other side.
And when he doesn't have Thiago, he's holding Elliot's hand the entire time. So he's constantly responsible for 50 yards of space. Now, people saying, oh, he looks slow. Has he had a physical decline? Yeah, probably, because we've run him into the ground. But to want to get rid of the only natural option you have in a position for 50 million just because every midfielder bar Thiago is playing poorly is insane. Be careful what you wish for.
We must move on. I just looked at the time. We must move on. Evan done the total opposite of Avi, and instead of giving me a quick answer, Avi didn't give me an answer. Shit. Evan gave me a whole thesis on him. Ryan,
I'll give you a brilliant answer.
Ryan,
great stuff, Evan. Evan, great stuff. I have got some breaking news, Grizz, if I may just quickly. I know we're tight for time. Don't worry, me and Evan can take over if you have to go. Unai, actually, the great player in the World Cup for Morocco, Unahi is actually going to Napoli. That's actually a done deal. I'm not Fabrizio Romano. I'm not anyone, but I'm just telling you that.
Yeah,
Unai
that's what this
Napoli
guy is saying. That's why Napoli or Leicester. So it was linked with Napoli or Leicester. You didn't do any groundbreaking news there. Shut up.
Thank you.
Okay, LFCR 786 says, question, lads, Jude and one more quality midfielder or 4 quality midfielders without Jude? I really feel we need 4 midfielders because Jones is redundant, to be honest. We need numbers. And then he also follows up. I'm trying to match up the super chats, guys. So if I haven't missed anyone's out. Enzo to Chelsea off, Fab the spoofer back. How should we tackle that? We tackle this one first. Avi, Jude and one more quality midfielder or 4? 4 is unrealistic.
So I'm thinking Caicedo. Okay, if you tell me 4, I would say in the top of my head, Caicedo, Nunes, Matheus Nunes. Depends on the other 2 though. I don't know. Maybe I think those 4 midfielders or Jude or another one. I would take those 4 midfielders. Caicedo, Nunes, but I'd have to think about the other 2. Who I'd want. Amadou Diawara of Napoli is someone that I really like. The other midfielder, maybe Ismail Benassar. That's a 4th one, you could say. Because we can't always shop at 60, 70 million pounds either, right? We've got to be a little bit sensible. So maybe Caicedo is your big hitter at 70. Matheus Nunes is your big hitter at 50. Amadou Diawara of Napoli, like him a lot. He could be 35, 40, but it is Napoli after all, the way they deal. And then who's the other one I named? Ismail Benassar, who I think available on a free transfer. Well, Jacob Ramsey is a good one as well.
You've just named way too many for people to actually.
I named you 4 there.
No.
Benassar, Diawara, Caicedo, Nunes. What do we know? Why are you shaking your head?
2 of those options are extremely mid.
I was going to say, Evan, we're going back to this. Instead of going for the creme de la creme that we've strived for and we crave for the last 5-6 years, why can't we just go for the creme de la creme instead of building up players? And now we're saying we're going to go for 4 mids as opposed to 2 of the elite.
So you'd only want Jude and a Caicedo, for example.
You know what I've said to you? You bring me Jude and Caicedo and I'm ready to rock and roll next season. Of course, I'd like another cheap option somewhere, like an Amrabat, for example. I'm just putting the name out there. But you bring me Jude and Caicedo, wow, I'm ready to go.
I think just in terms of numbers of bodies, 3 is the minimum. But however, we as fans, we always have to be prepared for it to be less than what we want. It's never quite enough, is it? If you said you could do like Jude and Caicedo, like guaranteed, you would kind of have to take that as opposed to this 4 kind of mystery men. You know what I mean? Because my question to you would be like, okay, well, if I could have like 4 quality midfielders, like what's stopping me from saying Enzo Fernandez and Frankie de Jong? Is that because isn't the point that they're supposed to be cheaper than Bellingham? You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's too open of a question in my opinion. But the 3 that I think Hassan just had up, Jude, Nunes, Caicedo, that trio for me sounds really promising because we tick quite a lot of boxes. They're all particularly young. You have a teenager in there, you have a guy who's 21, and then you have a guy who's 24.
We're missing the homegrown rule as well this summer coming. I'm telling you, we are bypassing that rule because we're trying to play Championship Manager. Not at you, Evan, I'm just saying in general. That's going to prove to be problematic this summer. We do need to get an Englishman in if we think that Milner is gone, Ox is gone. Potentially, there's room for maybe Joe Gomez to play.
Well, what you can do in that situation, Avi, is you could give Ben Doak a professional contract of a certain amount, and then that qualifies him as a home.
He needs to be at the club for 3 years, though.
His development needs to have been in the UK for 3 years.
I personally would not worry about the homegrown rule. There is many ways of coming around that. That's just scaremongering amongst certain sections of the fan base that I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not an issue. There's many ways around it. We'll do a show around it. We'll actually do a show on how to get around that eventually in the summer or coming up to it if that ever arises. But I've kept up Hassan's comment for a reason, because for me, this is, we were talking about the new Fabinho, Henderson, and Gini. This is it. For me, because Moises Caicedo is the new Fabinho. Nunes is the new Genie, and Bellingham is a new, young, improved Henderson. Would be the regen for Klopp's gegenpress and heavy metal football, guys, in my humble opinion. Which leads us to, so we've spoken about Nunes, which hits the spot in terms of our price for transfers, right? 40, 50 million. That's our sweet spot, right? That's the one we're trying to go for, right? Moises Caicedo, Avi. Obviously, people want to know if you have any insight. I don't want to put you on the spot. If you have no insight, say I don't have any insight, and let's just speak about the rumors and everything. If you have insight, share it with us, Moises Caicedo. Because for me, wow, I love this player. I love him.
Yeah, and again, look, certain journalists have said we obviously have an interest, but no talks have happened and no bid. The no bid is true. No bid has officially gone in, but we do know where Tony Bloom and Brighton stand on this. They do want a figure. Some are saying 70, some are saying as high as 80. We haven't said no to that. And he also wants payments done like 3-4 payments where Liverpool work in 7-8 installments. I think I mentioned on this very same show the other day, similar to what we've done with Jota with Wolves and so on and so forth. So I don't think that's dead and buried yet. I do think we will put in a bid, which hopefully will come out in public. I'm pretty sure it will, and that hopefully that bid will be accepted. And this is again hope, but from what I know is we're still in dialogue with Brighton.
I'm gonna back that story up. Sometimes our stories do back up, sometimes they don't. I do believe we're also in talks with Moises Caicedo, but we know what Brighton are like to do with guys. They got 50 million for Ben White, Cucurella for 60 million.
60 million. Yeah.
How much did they get for Maupai, Everton? Does anybody
25
know?
25 million?
Too much.
Imagine too much. Whatever it was too much, right?
Too much for a guy of that quality.
Brighton are asking for, from my understanding, in the region of 70-75 million pound. Let us know in the chat if you think that's worth it, guys. I know we want signings, I know we want players, but are we in a position to pay that now, or wait until the summer and possibly get him for around 60 million, 55 to 60 million? Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments. That's the status quo at the moment.
His price is only going up, Grizz. Let's not beat around the bush. And whether it's 80 or beyond, pay it, because he's 22 years old. He's an absolute monstrous player. Yesterday was even more proof that this guy has everything in his locker, and he excels in every department. His passing, his tackling, the way he's progressing with the ball. I'm agreeing with you. Shields that midfield area.
I'm agreeing with you. But I'm saying, what if it jeopardizes the Jude scenario? So therefore, the question arises: what if it's a Caicedo and Nunes and a cheaper option then, and not Jude then? Because if you're going for Caicedo now, and you have no cash reserves left for the summer, and it jeopardizes, this is what I'm saying. But I'm in agreement with you in terms of potential and the player. Your thoughts on the player, Evan, Moises Caicedo? We know your thoughts on Nunes. You're an absolute massive, huge advocate of Nunes, like you've said, from the summer, not only now. So you're very on board with that. I actually think, guys, on the record, I actually think that will happen. I think Matheus Nunes is pretty much done. Barring serious injury to him, God forbid, or anything like that. I think we will trigger that agreement we have. But Evan, in terms of Moises Caicedo, they want circa 70-75 million pound for him, and they're not budging as of yet. We haven't walked away from my understanding. We are still locked in talks, and we're hoping to get some progress in the next week or so. Otherwise, we're going to leave it. What's your thoughts on Moises Caicedo?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Moises Caicedo, and the numbers behind Caicedo are just incredible. As you can see, right up there with Declan Rice, right up there with Tchouaméni. This is tackles and interceptions per 90, so it's just any form of ball recovery. He's right up there, as good as Rice, not quite as good as Tchouaméni. And then in long pass completion percentage, this guy has a wonderful passing range. I mean, some of the fond memories I'm sure we all have of Fabinho. in his pomp a few years ago was, he had a great passing range too. He was so much more than just a destroyer. He was the lighthouse. He sought out and destroyed the play when it needed to, and he could nurture the play as well. And so it's just really, really encouraging to see Caicedo at this point so far, just looking so imperious. Worth noting that for everything Caicedo is good at, Declan Rice is just as good as well. So if there are still any Declan Rice deniers out there, I don't think you should be at this point. Just a little side note. I'm just going to throw that in there. But Caicedo, the price is getting very steep for a player who, in my opinion, has a very small sample size of Premier League experience. If Declan Rice goes for 80 to 100 million, you could point to a very large sample size to prove that he's, somewhere close to that in terms of his actual, worth. Caicedo right now, even in this market, I think he's more of like a 50 to 60 million pound player. Anything north of that is, I think, us getting fleeced.
And this is the issue we're having right now. This is the issue. We actually value him in and around the figure that you've said, but they're not budging, and they're not flexible on the installment side of things as well. As I
don't think it matters if we get fleeced.
Well,
I'm sorry, but I don't think.
No. You're
buying quality. You get it. We'll fleece for Navigator if you think about it.
I was going to circle back and say that all of this is irrelevant depending upon who's offering the money. Is this FSG negotiating with Brighton, or is this a new owner with deeper pockets and a more aggressive recruitment strategy? So again, all of these conversations, would you do Bellingham and Caicedo or four options? All of this means nothing until we actually know what our recruitment strategy is, how much money we're playing with, who is waving the money bags around. We just really don't know. So that's why I try to stray away from the who would you rather have and how many bodies would you rather have. I really don't know, because I don't know as of January 4th, 2023, what is realistic for Liverpool Football Club. I know how FSG operate, but it's clear FSG are looking for a way out, and we don't know when that's going to happen. But Caicedo, 50 to 60 is what I would value him at. It sounds like we don't want to go north of that. But the thing is, I think Brighton are just in a position of power. Again, this is the January transfer window. This is a window for the desperate. If we come to the table for any player, it's because we are desperate, and people know it. So Brighton, they've just let go of Graham Potter. They let go of Mope. They let go of Basuma, and they're going to let go of Caicedo. And they have people breathing down their necks for Alexis McAllister as well after a phenomenal World Cup and a phenomenal Premier League season. His numbers are fantastic. Like, if you're Brighton, you just want to slow down. You don't want to sell every single one of your assets at their peak. You do have to hold on to a few of them. So I don't think Brighton want a fire sale of their entire club right now. They have no reason to. They're doing pretty well. They just got a new manager, and I think their new manager would be alienated if he had to let go of his best midfielder within a month of joining the club. Can't you argue we need Caicedo more than Jude? Asks LFCR.
One minute, please, 1 minute, because I want to ask this. I want to put him on the spot now for once. Yeah.
Okay.
He's always about being front-footed with the questions. Grizz, tell me, if you had an option now and we can't buy two, we have to get either Moises Caicedo or Jude Bellingham, who are you buying?
But see, this is one of my stupid hypothetical questions.
It's not stupid hypothetical. So it could be the scenario. It could be the scenario in the summer.
Let me explain. Because if Jude is going for 120 million and Caicedo is going for 70 million, that leaves us 50 million left over, right? So if you're saying I'm able to get Jude...
No, we're talking about the players here. The players. You can only choose one. Forget about price tag. Take the price tag out. But you're the price tags out here for once. But listen, think about the players. Caicedo or Jude?
You're spoiling the show. I'm going to have to kick you out. Because I tell you why you're spoiling. Because Evan, back me up on this. Because if we're talking 120 million, right, that he's giving me the option of spending 120 million and 70 million. That's not the question I'm asking you. He's asking you. You are asking me that. No, he didn't ask me that. There's no monetary term question. There is. I tell you why.
Who do you prefer?
I tell you why. Because it's definitely Caicedo, because with that 50 million, I can also buy another dynamic midfielder.
That's not now you're
So
deviating.
therefore,
You can't deviate to another question.
I've just told you. If you let me answer,
who would you prefer as a player?
I've just said
Jude
it. So
or
therefore,
Caicedo?
I've just therefore.
Forget about the price. Forget about the price.
You cannot forget that.
Come on, yeah. Come on, honestly.
You can't. I'm
being very wishy-washy, Grizz. Very wishy-washy.
Hypotheticals are
I didn't reach where I am
hypotheticals.
by being like so dumb and stupid and fall for your stupid questions. Yeah, go on, Evan.
Let me rephrase LFCR's question.
That's it. Rephrase it.
He's clearly.
No, this is right. He's asking the better player.
He's asking stylistically.
Yes.
What gets Liverpool out of its current hole more effectively, Jude Bellingham or Moises Caicedo? That is really fucking difficult because the hole is really fucking deep. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's hard to say. Jude Bellingham is a generational talent, and Moises Caicedo isn't. I'm just gonna say it that way. I'm taking Jude Bellingham because the ceiling is that much higher. Moises Caicedo would improve us massively.
Right.
Massively.
This is what
I think Caicedo maybe. It's so tough to say. It's really tough to say. I think Caicedo right now is the best option for us in the January market in terms of making something out of this season. Let's just say in terms of people who could actually be obtained now, they're actually for sale now. Jude is not actually for sale now, technically, as of January. Caicedo
there's a premium that Dortmund would want if you want to get him out in January.
Reasonably, within some reason.
Yeah, but forget the monetary value. Why are you bringing monetary value into it, Avi? You just said forget the monetary value. So if you have a choice of Caicedo and Jude now,
if they were the same price, Grizz, who are you picking?
That's the question. You just wasted 7 minutes of your brain cells for no reason. This is why.
Same price. Who you
I always
for?
tell you to calm down and relax and listen. Yeah, you're on a serious show. Exactly, Jaldi Kar. No, Jaldi Kar basically people. In fact, the Punjabi-speaking contingent in the chat will know he's saying hurry up, which is a sign of nervousness. When someone's nervous and stuck, say hurry up. Am
I shaking?
So why are you saying Jaldi Kar? Jaldi Kar means hurry up.
Because I want an answer from you. If they say the same price, if Brighton have said nope, we want 100 million too. Yep. Dortmund have said, Zorka said I want 100 million too. Who are you going for? Stylistically, who matches us better?
Caicedo for me right now.
There you go. It wasn't hard, was it?
It was very hard. It was very hard for you to put the question to me. How hard was it to put the question to me? It is what it is. But anyway,
Jude Bellingham is much better than Moises Caicedo right now.
There you go.
Much better.
So everyone is entitled to their opinion on this show, except you.
I'm not saying anything.
Sabr.
He's
saying shut up, Grizz. How's he thinking I'm not going to put him in a timeout? He's going to say shut up.
Ashraf's going to leave Ashraf Salb. Ashraf Salb is okay. He's okay.
Shut up. I'm putting him in a timeout. Teach some manners to you as well and respect. You talk respect on this channel. You don't say shut up, Grizz, to whose channel it is. Not on my show, anyway. Not on my watch, I should say. Anyway, respect is given, respect is taken. All of that
Evan,
business.
I'm sorry, but I side with Grizz. I actually prefer. I would.
Would anybody like to look at some stats while they bicker?
No, I'm done with your stats. I don't even understand them. I can't even understand them. Mujhse samajh nahi aati hai, Grizz.
Hang out with me?
No, go on. Show us some stats. Here are some stats about. Go on.
Okay. Since you insist, Grizz.
Shut up, Avi.
Can you zoom in, Grizz, please?
Since you insist, I guess if y'all have nothing else better to do, I guess. Okay, fine. All right. So this is Jude Bellingham's Bundesliga data, hence why there's an asterisk, but this is progressive ball winners in the Premier League. These are the best midfielders in the league, in my opinion. This is progressive actions, passes, dribbles, carries, everything that progresses the ball, recoveries in the opposition half. These are the pressing monsters in the league. As you can see, Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, probably the two best midfielders in the Premier League currently. No coincidence that they sit at the top of the metrics. Then you have people like...
Where's Matheus Nunes?
This was made... before Matheus Nunes was linked a few days ago, and I also said I would keep his stats in the Premier League usually separate.
He doesn't listen.
Yeah.
Don't ignore.
Anyways, some really impressive people here. Declan Rice, like I said, is well above Premier League average in all of these underlying statistics. Respect Harvey Elliott, please. Thiago, incredible. Henderson, respectable. Mark Roca is quietly having an incredible season for Leeds United. Bruno Guimarães, Brazilian Portuguese people, let me know if I'm doing okay there. Incredible for Newcastle. Guimarães. There we go. See, I can be humble. I can take a lesson as well.
Exactly.
Thomas Partey, incredibly good as well. Respect Tyler Adams. Moises Caicedo sits in the average here. Worth noting that he probably does most of his recoveries in his own half. Specifically, this is recoveries in the opposition half. He doesn't play as far forward as Harvey Elliott. Doesn't play as far forward as Jude Bellingham, so that's probably why. But still, sitting at the Premier League average when you're 21 years old is very nice as well. So this is sort of what you would expect, and this is kind of why I would imagine Jude Bellingham is priority number one, because he's just as good as KDB and Rodri in these metrics, and those are the two best midfielders in the Premier League, in my opinion, and they happen to play for the team that we're competing for the league for most seasons. So that's why I think he's so highly touted. But this is sort of just who you can imagine the elite names in the Premier League are. And of course, Alexis McAllister, look at him, so tenacious, recovers the ball so often. So this is just a really interesting look. I think these metrics are the most important when you scout midfielders in the Premier League. So I see this is cool. This has cooled the temperature down in here a little bit. I have doused it with a bunch of math, and now everyone's like more calm. You know what I mean? There's less bickering going on.
It's always nice to see
this is good.
Yeah, always, absolutely.
You have to teach me them as well, Evan.
And KD makes a very good point as well with the super chat. He says Jude's talent is also his leadership on the field. He's so mature, isn't he? I guess that leads us to the Jude. So we've spoken about the links to Nunes, which we believe, I think, Avy, if we combined our two, one massive brain, one slightly smaller brain, if we combine the two, we both think and agree that Nunes will be signed in the summer. I think we will trigger that. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
I believe that as well.
Moises
Caicedo, we both believe we are still locked in talks and there's no been decision made either way. Brighton, there's a price and a premium that they want and they're not budging from it. Simple as. It's either we pay it or we don't. We both agree on that aspect.
Yeah.
Now we come to the Jude, the third member of this new fantasy dream midfield of ours. Before people say, oh, they've said all three are signing and that's our new midfield. It's our dream. It's our opinion that would be probably the perfect midfield going forward. The Jude Bellingham situation, a lot of noise about Madrid securing him. Now last week he was favouring Liverpool. The month before he was favouring City. And now this month he's favouring Real Madrid. What's your opinion or take on the Jude Bellingham scenario? Jurgen Klopp was asked today, by the way, guys, I don't know if it slipped anyone's notice. Jurgen Klopp was asked, have they spoken to Jude or his parents? Because there's a lot of noise that we've done a lot of groundwork with his friends and family, his agent and his family. He came out and said, no, there's no such story. We're not allowed to speak to his agent and his family because he's a Dortmund player and have the utmost respect for his club. What's your take and what's your say on it? Because couple of reliable journalists have said he now favors to Madrid.
Are you asking me or you asking
me? Sorry. I was going to Grizz, Spanish media, they always have a way of spinning things, especially when it comes to Real Madrid talk. We know Real Madrid is like this Spanish darling of clubs. I tweeted it earlier. I would ignore what's coming out of the noises that are coming out of Spain. I think it was an Italian journalist today, Massimo Moretto or something, who, some people say is reliable, saying that Jude, but no. We've done groundwork. What Klopp is saying, I don't want to say it's tongue-in-cheek, but there's no way that Klopp has not spoken to Jude and his advisors, his family. I'm sure the way clubs now do groundwork is they will talk to the agent, they will talk to the player. Come on, let's not kid ourselves. We all know about the Brighton pair story, the Blackpool pair, Van Dijk and Klopp, and I believe that to be the case with Jude Bellingham. And the rest is now up to the clubs. It's up to Liverpool and Dortmund to thrash out a deal. So for me, I still find Liverpool as the front runners for his signature. I have believed that for a long, long time, and nothing that's coming out in the news can dissuade me from that.
You've obviously made clear, Evan, what you think of Jude Bellingham. For you, how would you take it if after hearing that he's the number one target and we're saving up for him and we're not pursuing any other targets, how would you react, you think? Because you don't know how you react until it happens. But how will you react on the first RedFellas if we don't secure Jude Bellingham? A different type
That's
of
bold
question.
of you to think that's bold of you to think that I would even show up for RedFellas.
Show up,
if that
yeah.
was the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hockey sounds interesting. I might pick a hockey team and just go from there. You know what I mean? I don't know. Baseball,
Pittsburgh
maybe?
Penguins.
I don't
Hey,
know.
I've got a team for you already. The Pittsburgh Penguins.
I don't know. I got the San Jose Sharks, and you should know better. But it would be laughable. It would be the nail in the coffin of the death that we've all dreaded. You know what I mean? Is that the club is dysfunctional, and we really put all of our eggs in one basket without getting any serious assurances. We're all kind of just assuming that Jude wants us above all else, no matter what. That is the thought that keeps us warm on the cold nights. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. Like, to be honest, I'm unmoved by what Italian and Spanish tabloids have to say about it recently. To be honest, these are not reliable sources, in my opinion. I from the sources I've seen, these are usually some, DiMarzio. All due respect to them, but I've never known them to be reliable. Madrid mouthpieces and things like that. I think it's gone so far that I'm just assuming that Klopp and Linders are acting in good faith. I'm just assuming that they have some sort of handshake agreement with the players' camp, and they have reached some sort of understanding, some sort of interaction between the two camps, us and his, that leads them to believe that they will have a free run at him in terms of thrashing out personal terms. Again, this is that a dangerous strategy? Well, for us on the outside fans, yeah, it is, because we lack so much of the information. We don't know what's been said in these calls and in these conferences and in these secretive Blackpool meetups. You know what I mean? We just don't know. Is it a dangerous strategy? Absolutely. Am I going to be devastated if it doesn't come off? Yeah, because I placed my trust in the club, even though I disagreed with the decision to have it be Bellingham or nothing. If the strategy that I disagreed with for so many years in the first place doesn't even end up coming off, then yeah, it's going to be devastating. Where do we go from there? Because we've shown we're not very good at plan B.
Yep. But just to save you all of that, I genuinely believe that Jude Bellingham will be a Liverpool player. I genuinely believe that we have done all the groundwork needed. I genuinely believe that he has given us his word. But until he signs on the dotted line, these stories will be spread. Are you going to do the
Match today?
I've done it. I've already done it. Sleepy Forest says, Grizz, is Enzo Fernandez no topic at Liverpool anymore? I don't believe. I said on last week's show that Enzo Fernandez is no topic at Liverpool for the price that there was being quoted to Chelsea and whatever. Enzo Fernandez is most certainly a topic at Liverpool in terms of a talent and a player that we like and we've scouted. But again, the price that they're looking for is double how much we value him at and willing to pay for him. So whether they calm down now that apparently the Chelsea, we've been while we were on air, people were putting up that Chelsea have broken down, their move has broken down. Well, there you go. Even the great reliable journalists that have said done can sometimes be wrong. So show a bit of kindness to us all. Guys, I'm going to call it a day or a night or afternoon there, unless there's anything that we have forgotten from the agenda. Bobby Firmino, very, very quickly.
Bobby deal, Grizz.
Thanks. That's exactly what I said, Abby. Yeah, if you could get off your phone and concentrate on the show, it would be... I mean, you don't have to. Just don't talk. Just look pretty.
No, look at the Coop Miners as well, Grizz, if you wanted to.
We're running out of time.
I'm here all day.
You said jaldi, which was hurry up.
No, it's good. We're good for time.
We're good now. Good boy. Bobby Firmino. I'm going to pat myself on the back and say I pretty much revealed we're entering talks with Bobby Firmino a couple of months ago. Jurgen Klopp pretty much admitted that last week that we are in talks with Bobby Firmino. Obviously, naturally, a player of Bobby Firmino's caliber and skill and name still in the game will get attracted and contract offers from clubs around the world, knowing that he's free to speak to them. What are you doing with Bobby Firmino, Avi? If you are Jurgen, what's the situation in your head space? Take everything into consideration and the players we bought and what we need to do in the summer, which doesn't include an attacker really at this stage, unless you're ready to let Bobby go.
I think it's time you say a very long 6-month goodbye to our very own Roberto Firmino. What a servant to this football club. I actually get emotional talking about Bobby. I'm not one of those who gets teary-eyed, but I've lost for words of what he's provided us, the service. It's so unselfish. For me, a world-class player, a world-class performer. Absolutely brilliant. Love him. So selfless as well. But I think the time, he'll be 32, I think, in October, or 33, 32, I think. I think it's time to say goodbye to him. I think it's right. I think the time has come for him to look at new pastures as well. We will have 5 attackers. If you look at Jota, Salah, Darwin, Diaz, and then Gakpo, and then obviously you hope that Ben Doak and Cade Gordon is back in full training, which is great. One of those two can be that sort of 6th attacker, bringing him off the bench or give him some cup games. I think for Bobby, for me, it's it'll be a nice long goodbye for the next 6 months, and hopefully he'll be back in the squad as well after his injury. But I'll be happy if he was to be let go of.
Mr. Evan, your final difficult question of the night. After that, promise you only easy questions, if there's any.
I would say goodbye to my favorite Liverpool player.
Oh,
listen. The guy started to become injury prone in later years. Not a surprise considering how many minutes we've logged on those beautiful legs. But
averages 51 games a season. By the way, guys, that's a lot of football.
Yeah,
wow.
But then in the last 12 months, he's been injured more than the previous 6 years. So it indicates that it's time to go. He's also a player who can only play centrally in the front three. He's not going to be playing left wing or right wing. At least you can look to Nunes and Gakpo and Jota and say these guys can play on the wing or centrally. And listen, and we've handed out deals to other 30-year-olds. We gave the big contract to Henderson. We can't afford to have too many big contract extensions for people on the wrong side of 30. So this partially makes sense for just Firmino in the context of the forward line, and then in the wider context of the squad, it also makes sense. My favorite Liverpool player of all time, bar none. Avi took the words out of my mouth, but goodbye, Bobby. But at the same time, I'm not gonna be upset if he gets like a 1-year extension or something like that. Cool.
Fine. Same.
I've just remembered one last name and piece of news that came out today, guys.
Grizz, what do you think? Do you think
I'm agreement with you guys. I think he will extend.
Which is good out of the way. It's fine.
I think he will extend, but I personally wouldn't offer him a new contract. But as I said, Liverpool are in talks and have been in talks for him for about 4 or 5 weeks now in terms of a new deal. I personally wouldn't. But again, I'm heartbroken like used to as well. That I wouldn't, but we must move on. Nkunku. Again, I did say at the summer that he's an option if the Nunes deal doesn't go through, Darwin Nunes, but we went through with Darwin Nunes. Today, a good 6 months later, it has been revealed that Grizz Khan was actually right. He didn't guess that one right. Nkunku, happy with the choice we've made, guys? Whoever wants to go first can go first, I guess.
Great season at Leipzig last summer. Started off as like a midfielder as well, didn't he? He played in the midfield 3 for quite a bit as well. Obviously came from PSG. Was never going to get a look in there, unfortunately. But put up some numbers, and this season put up some numbers again prior to the injury. And it was a shame not to see him at the World Cup, Grizz. But he's got a devastating pace, and he would have been brilliant as well in any of those three positions, centrally or on the left. He's a bit of a pest, in Nkunku. But you know what? I'm happy with Darwin. I think the direction that we're taking with Darwin is the correct one. And Mr. Chaos just needs to find his shooting boots and needs to start scoring soon. But yeah, I don't have no regrets that we sort of bypassed Nkunku for Darwin Nunes.
Soccer God.
He was my favorite non-Liverpool player for a solid 24 months. Yeah, that one hurt. I'm not entirely convinced if he came to Liverpool, he would have been a forward line player. I think he might have been a midfielder for Liverpool. He's a midfielder by trade. The lines in Germany are insanely high. It's not difficult to be a 20-goal season type player there. And just for the record, I don't think he'll be Chelsea's striker when he eventually joins them. I think he'll play elsewhere because he's an incredibly versatile player, and that's why I wanted him. He was also more of a finished product. He's less of a project than Nunez. Nunez is very much a project in his age. But at the same time, it's hard to say the Nunez thing isn't working, despite his 3 to 4 game goal drought. The guy is getting an insane amount of chances in a flawed system. And, once he finds his confidence, it's hard to say that there won't be a glut of goals there. If Darwin Nunez was completely ghosting through games and never getting chances and,
Then
looking like that, then I would be saying, okay, maybe we should have gone for Nkunku. But because the guy is so clearly like electric in the system, regardless of his recent finishing in the last few weeks, I don't know. I'm like Avi. I think the Darwin project's off to a good start.
We have Donut making a donut of himself, saying, I'm all for Nunes playing centre-back while Virgil is out. Thank you, Donut, for making a donut of yourself. But, hey, you know what I mean? We needed someone to top Avi's stupidity tonight, and you've done it there. But, guys, this has been a wonderful first show of the season, transfer season. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think we've given our opinions to as much as we could have given. Is there anything? Avi, there were some people that wanted to ask about
Ask me a question.
Yeah, can you shed any light what this means or anything?
Havad Ege. Sounds Norwegian, that. If he wants to confirm if he's from Norway. Could be one of my mates, actually. Breaking news, star third baseman Rafael Devers and the Boston Red Sox are finalizing an 11-year, $331 million contract. Sources familiar with the agreement tell ESPN the deal is not done. Bellingham, $sign. He's just a player who's already at the Red Sox. That's a huge deal. But that has no bearing of where, some thunderstorms. That's no bearing of Liverpool and Boston. And there are some fans, and I don't want to name shame anyone or call them anything, but we've got to differentiate between the Red Sox and Liverpool Football Club. We're two different identities. There's no link of we're borrowing money from the Red Sox or they're taking our money and investing in players. It doesn't work like that, guys. They're 2-3 different separate identities, and I include the Pittsburgh Penguins in that too. But yeah, good news for the Red Sox. But yeah, they've been unlucky because they have tried to go for top players during the off season, but unfortunately they just haven't been able to secure it. So anyone that's booing John Henry with the Red Sox side, I get it, but he has been trying. Well, they have been trying as a club collectively, as a baseball team, to buy quite a few players, but it's not falling for him. That's
there.
it.
You go. Mr. Blue Chip has allayed any fears that it doesn't affect our purchases or our pursuing deals. That's a total separate business and entity.
And it doesn't mean that we're offering Jude Bellingham $331 million for the next 10-11 years either. So yeah,
there you go. People, ladies, gentlemen, if there's any animals watching or whatever, you've all been amazing company. We've enjoyed your company. Hope you've enjoyed mine and Evan's company as well. Please like on your way out. If you haven't, subscribe. If you haven't, go follow the guys' handles. First show of the season is off and running. We'll maybe see you if there's any breaking news. If there isn't, we'll see you next week. This has been Transfer Khanage. Over and out. Take care.